To better understand how to implement a winning strategy, we'll examine Disney's highly successful strategy over the past decade with CEO Bob Iger.
Grow up leadership!
Successfully executing a well-thought-out strategy is often the difference between a business, a department, a team, even an individual winning at your larger goals. At its simplest level, a strategy is a focus and a plan. Your mission or your vision is your higher purpose, your meaning. So strategy is your focus, your direction to move towards that mission. First up is to develop your strategy. Essentially, the ideas of your focus on how to work towards your mission. Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, shares how when he first moved into the CEO role, he had a long list of priorities. This is rather common. We all have many priorities, often competing priorities. To find success, you have to narrow them down to a handful, really 2 to 3 priorities. Again, your strategy is to provide focus and direction. If you have a never-ending list of priorities, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and lost. The strategies Bob Iger set for Disney were to invest in creativity, embrace technology, and grow globally. Once you have focused your priorities to build a clear direction and strategy, you need to articulate, persuade, and inspire your team with your strategy. Bob Iger talks about how he invested a fair amount of time in this phase of articulation and persuasion, with both the leadership board of directors, but also traveling to all the various global offices to meet and discuss his strategy and priorities with staff throughout the company. A big part of strategy is understanding your resources, relationships, and strengths and leveraging them appropriately. In the late 90s, early 2000s, Disney had struggled with finding the success with movies it once had. Their relationship with Pixar and Steve Jobs had soured and needed repairing. Mending this relationship was of high priority to Bob, as his goal was to eventually have Disney acquire Pixar. This acquisition ticked all the strategy boxes: invest in creativity, embrace technology, and grow globally. Pixar used rather advanced programming and technology in the creation of their animation. Bob Iger reached out to Steve Jobs to suggest the next step for the already successful iTunes platform was in video, and offered a partnership with ABC Shows. It just so happened Apple was releasing a new version of an iPod with a screen for watching videos, so this was a perfect partnership. This innovative collaborative thinking ultimately allowed Steve Jobs to agree to Disney acquiring Pixar. Bob Iger always made sure that both parties in any collaboration, partnership, and acquisition were winning. He recognized other skills and abilities to achieve their own success, so the idea was not to be absorbed into Disney, but to ensure all sides felt value and figured out how to leverage each other's strengths. This collaborative win-win approach led to amazing acquisitions and partnerships with not only Pixar, but also Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, 21st Century Fox. Along with articulating clear direction and focus and leveraging your available resources, successful strategies also require taking risks. Bob Iger shares how they don't use consumer data to guide new ideas and directions. Instead, they invest in being curious about the world. Curiosity leads to new ideas and where the world is going. This ultimately spawns innovation. It's about having one foot in the present and one foot in the future. There's no guarantee with creativity, and this is where you take risks. Disney, of course, took risks by acquiring several huge entertainment brands while attempting to allow each brand to retain their own unique creative direction and process. Disney also took risks with technology, particularly in the direct-to-consumer space. Bob Iger saw the disruption to ESPN with the expansion of how consumers watch sports through direct streaming and live services. ESPN took early risks to acquire technology to create and offer new direct-to-consumer platforms, and it paid off. This, of course, led to the hugely successful Disney Plus service. They could leverage their creativity resources to create new and enticing content while using what they learned with the platform technology through previous risks with ESPN. Bob Iger and Disney's tremendous success can be attributed to creating and implementing outstanding strategy. Strategy is all about focus on a few priorities that connect to your larger purpose and mission. Articulating those strategies throughout your organization, understanding your available resources and potential partnerships, and leveraging your strengths, and being present in the present while also anticipating the future, embracing disruptions and seeing them as opportunities, and ultimately taking risks. For more information about Bob Iger and Disney's strategic success, check out Bob Iger's masterclass. Highly recommend it. And be sure to check out this next video on strategy.